Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a fascinating case of what you might call diplomatic doublespeak. It's a situation where a world leader's official statement says one thing, but their personal actions seem to scream the complete opposite. So let's break down what happened and what it all really means.
Okay, so on the surface, this message seems perfectly clear, right? A U.S. embassy spokesperson puts out this statement and it's attributed to former President Donald Trump. It's praising India, it's praising its leader. It looks like your standard, friendly, diplomatic communication.
But, and this is a big but, here's where things get complicated. You see, this statement didn't just appear out of nowhere. It came out right after a very different and much more controversial message was put out there.
See, just before that official praise was released, Trump himself shared a podcast online. And this podcast contained commentary that a lot of people in India found to be, well, deeply insulting. So now you've got two totally opposite signals being sent at almost the exact same time.
And this brings us right to the heart of the puzzle. How do you make sense of this? How do you reconcile that kind of high praise with a major insult? Is one the real message, or is there something else going on here entirely? To figure this out, we've got to dig a little deeper.
For that, we can turn to an analysis from someone who is right on the inside, former National Security Advisor John Bolton. He actually offers a way of thinking about this that helps make sense of these kinds of contradictory messages.
Bolton makes a really crucial distinction here. He says on one side you have a president's personal rhetoric, the things they say off the cuff or post online. He argues that's totally separate from the other side, official U.S. policy, which is the coherent, formal position of the entire government.
So what Bolton is suggesting is that we should look at many of Trump's statements and see them for what they are, personal rhetoric, not formal policy. They aren't, as he puts it, official pronouncements, and they're not part of a coherent policy. This is really the key to the doublespeak. The embassy is doing its job communicating policy, while the individual is engaging in their own personal rhetoric.
So you might be asking, why does this disconnect even exist? Well, Bolton argues it's not random at all. It's often rooted in some deeply held personal beliefs that are driving the rhetoric. Let's look at a key example he gives.
He points directly to the issue of birthright citizenship. Now that's the principle, which is based on the 14th Amendment in the U.S. that says if you're born on American soil, you're automatically a citizen. And this idea becomes a major flashpoint.
What's really telling here is the language Bolton uses. He doesn't just call it a policy focus or a legal argument. He calls it a personal obsession. And that word choice really suggests that this stance is being driven by a deep-seated personal conviction, not some kind of reasoned policy analysis.
This sets up a really stark contrast. On one side, you've got a position that Bolton describes as being driven by emotion, coming from someone he claims doesn't really have a deep understanding of the legal concepts. And on the other side, you have more than a century of constitutional precedent that Bolton fully expects the Supreme Court will continue to uphold.
This whole debate over citizenship, it's not just some dry legal issue. It taps into a much bigger conflict about the fundamental identity of the United States. It really reveals two competing visions for what the country is all about.
As a prime example, Bolton specifically brings up the contributions of the Indian community. He points out how they've become citizens, built families, and enriched the U.S. economy and society, often coming through programs like H-1B visas. For him, this is a clear, positive model of the role immigration plays. And he boils it all down to this really powerful, unambiguous statement. For Bolton, this isn't just his opinion. He sees it as a core fact of the American identity, a vision of a nation that was built and strengthened by people who came from all over the world.
And this is where it all connects back. That traditional vision of America as a nation of immigrants stands in direct opposition to the worldview Bolton attributes to Donald Trump. So this suggests the rhetoric we see against birthright citizenship isn't just random. It stems from a fundamentally different perspective on the country itself.
All right, so let's bring this all together. After peering back all those layers, what's the main takeaway from this one incident of diplomatic doublespeak?
So think about it. We started with a pretty simple puzzle, a conflicting message about India. But by following that thread, we uncovered this clear split between personal rhetoric and official policy. Then we saw how that rhetoric is fueled by a personal obsession with citizenship, which ultimately reflects a profound disagreement over the very soul of the country.
And all of this leaves us with a really critical question to chew on. When a leader's personal words clash with their government's official policy, which one actually carries more weight? Which one truly defines a nation's character and its place in the world?